Because there are so many social problems that a company can handle, it should focus on the set of social problems that it is best equipped to resolve and from which it can gain the greatest competitive advantage. Finally, the company should incorporate CSR investments and activities into its performance measures. Now we'll see some examples of companies that have successfully implemented corporate social responsibility strategies. We see Toyota, which created the first hybrid electric vehicle, known as the Prius, as a response to concerns over automobile emissions. And this has not only benefited the environment, but has also given Toyota a competitive edge as it is gradually becoming the leading manufacturer of the hybrid electric and is setting a standard worldwide. We have Microsoft, and actually the growth of Microsoft is constrained due to lack of IT workers. As a result, it has partnered with the American Association of Community Colleges, AACC, and invested $50 million over 5 years to improve the IT curriculum in community colleges. This has not only benefited the community, but also positively impacted Microsoft, whose growth, as I stated earlier, depends on IT workers. Finally, we have Whole Foods, which is an example of a company that has integrated social responsibility and a social dimension entirely into its value proposition. It focuses on selling organic, natural, and healthy foods and commits to only environmentally friendly operating processes. As a result, it has made it unique in food retailing and it has given it the ability to command premium prices. Corporate social responsibility and its importance is gradually on the rise in Kuwait. Many companies are beginning to understand how important it is to implement CSR strategies into their corporation. Looking at some examples, we find that Day1 telecommunication company is an example of a company in Kuwait currently implementing CSR policies. It strives for equal opportunity and diversity. It has focused on employee welfare and safety training, and is certified in the ISO 14001, which is an international standard for environmental management in order to help organizations to minimize environmental damage. Next, we have National Bank of Kuwait, which is NBK. It has created a specialized children's hospital. It has aimed to provide job opportunities for young nationals and even publishes an annual corporate social responsibility report. Finally, we have Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, KPC. It has a committee that is dedicated entirely to CSR and has focused on the enhancement of its HSE, or health, safety, and environment performance, and has even undertaken charitable enterprises in several countries such as Pakistan, Tunisia, and Indonesia. Benchmarking and corporate social responsibility. Benchmarking is a process in which companies compare their own practices and performances with the industry's best. And even though many companies currently overlook benchmarking in CSR because they regard it as a non-financial performance indicator, it has in fact various advantages. First of which, it enhances transparency. Because through benchmarking, companies can be more open about their CSR activities and achievements, and as a result, stakeholders can judge for themselves how responsible each corporation is. It improves accountability. It allows companies to determine any weaknesses within the corporation, as well as they are able to hold certain employees accountable for any CSR achievements. It enhances the possibility of cross-company comparison. That is to say, companies, of course, can compare their performance with other companies, and based on this aspect, they can compete with other companies, and they can also identify any bottlenecks within the company, and as well, they can track any progress that they've made over the past year. Finally, it provides a systematic approach to judge company contributions. That is to say, companies can be judged based on their CSR policies and not just merely on incidents or media coverage. It gives a more balanced and overall view of the company's contributions. When benchmarking in corporate social responsibility, it is important to take into consideration all the stakeholders that are important to the company. You should look into the various stakeholders such as employees, suppliers, customers, society, shareholders, and competitors, and benchmark accordingly. Such aspects to consider, for example, when benchmarking and looking at employees, you might want to consider human rights or equal opportunities for women and minorities. With suppliers, you might take into consideration the safety of the product or the environmental effect that the product has. With customers, you can look into the respect for customers and the safety and quality of the product. society, you can take into consideration the environmental effects or the contributions to local projects and in developing countries. With shareholders, you can look at the prevention of inside trade of stocks and profitability. Competitors, you can see the measures that are used to prevent bribery. Another aspect you can benchmark is with organization of ethics. You can look at the code of conduct, the standard certifications, external audits, social reports, social handbook, and so on. One of the main things that can be used in benchmarking are standard certifications. These are very important because they verify that a company is actually adhering to certain CSR policies and performances. And some common standard certifications that are generally adopted by companies worldwide include the ISO 14001, which I previously mentioned, as a set of standards that are used to minimize environmental damage. You have the SA 8000, which is a standard for decent working conditions. And there's the UN Global Compact, which is a set of principles that discuss human rights, labor, the environment, and anti-corruption. Because each company might have its own measures or standards when it comes to benchmarking, or they might have been certified with different standards, it is important to classify the different criteria that were used for the different corporate social responsibility performance metrics. So for example, you might ask yourself, when considering certain certificates of different corporations, you might look at what area was the metric or standard concerned with. Was it the environment, like the ISO 14000, or was it workplace related, like the SA 8000? What kind of organization created the metric? It is important to know the source. Was it an SRI firm, or was it the government, media, or standards organization? You should also consider what level of monitoring is required. None, or is it a type of self-report, or does it require an external monitor? The quality of monitoring. Does it just monitor an internal process, or does it even focus on the outcome? The level of analysis includes what types of analysis is involved in the standard, such as the firm, plant, or product. The level of monitoring includes to what aspect is the monitoring carried out? To the suppliers as well. Does it include life cycle environmental costs? And finally, other aspects to be taken into consideration are transparency, reliability, comparability, and validity of these standards. In conclusion, CSR is a voluntary process in which communities give back to the corporations, give back to the communities they operate in. The awareness of corporate social responsibility is on the rise, and there are several reasons to which companies should undertake CSR initiatives. In order to achieve sustainability and reap the greatest business benefits, corporations should focus on creating shared value. One of the most important benefits of benchmarking is that it enhances company transparency and of course allows for cross-company comparison. When benchmarking corporate social responsibility, the different categories of stakeholders need to be accounted for. And finally, it is important to classify CSR performance metrics when benchmarking against different standards and criteria. And I would like to thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. Well, we certainly ran around a few topics there under the heading of benchmarking. I noted a few down. We started with benchmarking and we got into different tools, diagnostics and best practice, and, process benchmarking, all of that. We also talked about exchange of ideas, adapting rather than adopting. I think that's the difference between being a day tripper and an explorer. We also talked about looking outside of the sector to see that things were actually better maybe outside. You'll always be as good as the best in your sector if you stay inside. If you go outside, there's a possibility you could be better. And benchmarking, supporting business excellence and other things like ISO 9000 as well. We got on to the topic area of knowledge management and learning organisations, which is obviously very important. So many people lead organisations and their knowledge goes with them. That's the tacit knowledge that you were talking about, as opposed to the documented. And that then on, in terms of tacit knowledge, to intellectual capital, tangibles and intangible assets, and trying to look at some of those intangibles. And then corporate social responsibility used to be something that was nice to do, and now it's actually something that has a very good business case associated with it. And the term stakeholder rather than suppliers. And the environment, people and profit, the triple bottom line, and also bringing together ISO 14001. So, and then right at the end, we had mention of the code of conduct for benchmarking, which is something that we advocate in the global benchmarking network to use, just to keep out of trouble. Started as something that was designed for companies in terms of anti-competitiveness and to see that they were doing benchmarking for the right reasons. Europeans took the lead from the United States. We had the first near-QM, and now just adopted a revised version of that. And that really was some of the points. I'm not saying that was exhaustive, but that was some of the points that I took from the presentations. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick discussion session with the three speakers. I'm going to throw a question in. We'll see who picks it up. And then hopefully someone will come up and take this microphone from the platform and make it available to you down there. Because I do feel that you're down there, and I'm sort of up here and you're down there. And see if you have questions. Okay? So, is anyone moving towards the microphone? And is it working? There's another one. Okay. Right, let me ask my question then. And I think maybe any of the panel will have a view on this. The word, the one I hadn't mentioned in there, because I saved it for the question, is the word innovation. I like the word innovation. Where I came from in a past life, innovation took a turn. It used to mean doing things differently in a broader sense, and it became technological innovation. And I've been waiting sort of 8 years, I think, for the thing to turn around and pendulum to come back. And I'd just like the panel's view on what they see as innovation. Whoever would like to push the red button first, really.
Thanks, Terry. From my point of view, I don't think that innovation is an option anymore. It's a must for organizations. If we look to Facebook, yesterday Dr. Robin shared a very impressive statistic with me. Facebook in less than 9 months could reach to 50 million people. Right, Dr. Robin, was it 50 million? 100 million in less than 9 months. So I think what's happening around in the world forces organizations to adopt innovation. It's not an option anymore. I've seen some practices in some organizations in Dubai today to establish departments called innovation departments. It's not just an R&D, but it's a department that encourages the culture of innovation around in the organization and around the stakeholders as well.
What is mostly misunderstood is that in terms of innovation, this would take place in universities or in research institutes. And innovation at the end means that there's a product ready to be commercialized. And therefore it is very difficult to argue, and it's very difficult for countries to set up innovation systems to support the outcome of an innovation process. And this also is a big challenge in terms of how to assess innovation, like it is how to assess knowledge economy. And there are available indicators most of the countries do use, like intellectual property rights, number of patents, number of publications, citation index. There is another quite famous indicator called the Georgia High-Tech indicator, which is a combined indicator of input, throughput, and output indicators. But to support the innovation activities, it is not only important to invest more in research and development, it is much more important to invest in the capacities of industry. And by giving you a German example, and Germany is quite well known worldwide of being one of the most innovative countries.